South Africa has a vibrant, growing film industry in reputation and is competitive internationally. Well, so says the experts. But there is evidence of just how local and foreign filmmakers are taking advantage of the country's diverse, unique locations. South Africa has a unique beauty, picturesque, quintessential locations, and an extraordinary history that has captured the imagination of many international producers. From Sotsi to District 9, Oscar-nominated Yesterday and A Lion's Tale, they are only but a few of the big-ticket movies made here. Well, to discuss the business of filmmaking and movies, I have with me Ms. Zama Mkosi, CEO of the National Film and Video Foundation. Hello and welcome. Great to have you with us.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Of course, the location is the big appeal, but certainly the rand is favorable right now. Is this impacting on the industry?
Oh, yes, and positively so. Because our locations become the primary attraction. But beyond that, we've seen over the years that industry has matured beyond just locations. The industry itself, the expertise in the industry themselves become an attraction. People come here because there is world-class facilities for filmmaking in South Africa. And when they get here, they find that the level of expertise are comparable to anywhere in the world.
Absolutely, and South Africa is the big apple, the big spinner in Africa. How has this industry really turned itself around following the new democratic dispensation?
Yes. The industry has been lucky because our government has really not only spoken about supporting the industry, but they've actually put a lot of resources towards the development of the film industry. Firstly, our organization itself, the National Film and Video Foundation, was established in terms of the Act of 1997. So that was soon after the democratic dispensation. And so we are a creature of democracy and showing government's commitment towards developing the industry. But beyond that, government has, through the Department of Trade and Industry, has put in a lot of funding to be made available as incentives to develop the industry, as well as other government agencies like the Independent Development Corporation, which is IDC. Those are the guys that are looking into developing the film industry and putting money towards investing in the South African film industry.
Tell us about what strides have been made from a policy perspective, because that's a critical role you play as the NFVF.
Yes, the NFVF has a legislated mandate to make sure that the development of the industry does not only go in terms of how much is being funded, but the policy framework of the industry needs to be solid. And we have contributed significantly to ensuring that the policy framework is favorable and creates an enabling environment for the industry to thrive. We have had recent introductions. We know that ICASA plays a significant role. The issue of quotas has been, has had a positive impact towards the industry, even though there still are challenges in terms of the implementation and the policing and holding broadcasters accountable to those quotas. That remains an issue. But beyond that, the NFVF has also conducted a lot of research around the economic contributor that the film industry is. We are confident that that research that we have done will contribute towards more policies being developed in favor of the South African film industry.
So how big is the sector when it comes to its contribution to GDP and jobs?
The study that we did is a couple of years old, unfortunately. We did the last study in 2012, where we commissioned Deloitte to do that baseline study for us. And that showed us that the film industry contributes over 3 billion into the GDP.
That's impressive.
And it's impressive, and it creates over 25,000 full-time jobs per annum.
And where were we before 1997, before you came about?
We were way low, I must say. We were way lower than that. And even in the number of productions a year, we were doing at that time a measly 8 productions. Nowadays, South Africa releases over 25 films into the South African box office per annum.
Now, you mentioned a few organizations that's contributing to the development of this industry. What about the DTI? Tell us about your collaborations with the DTI, and from a policy perspective, how are you taking forward the agenda of attracting investment?
Yes. The NFVF's role is that of leading the film industry. We may find that we may not have have the full budget to do what needs to be done, but certainly the lobbying role, the advocacy role that we play influences the other key role players, like the influence that we've had into the policies of the Department of Trade and Industry to make sure that their policies around the incentives favor the growth of the film industry. But more importantly, they favor the development of the previously disadvantaged filmmakers. So we've played a significant role in make sure that there is the establishment of Emerging Black Filmmakers Fund within the DTI that also goes into lowering the entry level amount that people can fund and be able to access funding from the DTI. We've also partnered.
So the funding comes from the DTI.
They provide an incentive.
Okay.
NFVF does provide funding. We play that role, but appreciating that we can't fund 100%.
Sure.
Hence, we bring other players on board. So we make it easier for the filmmakers that they have a one-stop with us, and we are the ones that partner with the IDC, with the DTI, and in that way they can have a full package once they receive the funding.
This is so critical to fund emerging producers, like you said, especially emerging black producers. How has funding opened doors for these emerging producers?
We've posted significant results out of that, I must say, because over the few years, the NFVF has decided that we are going to focus on women as well as youth filmmakers. We've ring-fenced funding, especially for that.
I like that.
Absolutely. And over the past few years, we have over 20 short films made by women who are making films for the first time, not to mention even young people. First-time filmmakers, over the past 2 years, they have made over 20 short films, and that they can use as a calling card in order to take them to the next level of producing full-length feature films.
Everything you said so far is very impressive, very encouraging, but I'm sure there are challenges. What are some of the structural challenges you're facing right now in the industry?
Well, the very key challenge that we are facing is obviously the limited resources. And obviously people will say that that is a challenge faced by any industry, but particularly the film industry, because it can be, the funding of arts in itself is under strain. Hence, as the NFVF, we are doing all that we can to create data that will attract the private sector towards the film industry. Hence, the studies like the economic baseline study, we've got the skills audit research that we've just completed. We want to make sure that if there's a private sector out there with deeper pockets, they are able to come on board, because we can't have a sustainable industry that is only funded by government. Government funding it is very important and is to be commended. But for it to be sustainable over a long period of time, we need to make sure that we bring the private players on board. And that is still a challenge.
We know the budget is under stress right now as well. So we need to be innovative when it comes to attracting money, instead of always dipping into treasury for help.
Yes, and there's great opportunities because the market is still untapped. We have a huge market that has got a great demand for local content. This was confirmed by the audience research study that we did recently. It confirmed that South African audiences are hungry and they've got an appetite for local content. But we, the industry, are just not producing enough, and our distribution channels are still not accessible to our market as they could be.
And having said all of that, are there any lessons that can be drawn from Nigeria, the Nollywood of Africa? They're very successful when it comes to the film industry in particular. Are we comparing apples with oranges here?
Well, I think the South African film industry is unique in many respects because we were there for much longer, and there's other infrastructure and facilities that we may be way ahead in terms thereof, and therefore we can't ignore those. We still need to capitalize on the fact that we are the top 3 destinations when Hollywood studios are looking at doing a high-end film. South Africa is right there on top, and we are going to be considered for that. We can't deny that part of our industry. We need to capitalize on it. But having said that, we've got a lot of local stories, authentic South African stories that need to be told. We've got local audiences that we still need to tap into. And there are the lessons that we can learn from the territories like Nollywood. They create content that connects and resonates with their audiences.
They're big on local.
They are big on it, and I'm glad because the South African industry is catching up on it. South African filmmakers are now putting out films that connect with their audiences. Happiness is a 4-letter word is one such example. I mean, it broke box office records. Why? Because it told a story that every woman and man can absolutely connect with. And the numbers in box office speak for themselves.
And what are some of the most exciting projects you're working on right now?
Well, right now, I would say the most exciting projects, once again, is the focus on women and youth. Those young filmmakers are really going to show those established filmmakers, they're going to give them a run for their money, because the ideas that are coming out there, the new ways of telling stories, I think it's really going to wow the audiences. So I'm quite excited
are always
about that.
underutilized human capital.
Completely, and what's coming out of there is really going to be just out of this world.
Fantastic talking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
I really enjoyed
All the best
myself.
with your endeavors.
Thank you.